Hi, I'm Guy Armitage, zealous founder and master in AI. Well, I have a master's in it anyway. Join the epic Jennifer Kites Powell and I on a roller coaster ride through tech, art, social change, Satan's whiskers, juggling family and business. Family's not related to Satan, sitting in cardboard boxes, and if time permits, a little AI on her Tiny Little Victories podcast, available soon on the finest device near you.
Hey friends, welcome back to Tiny Little Victories. You are listening to Tiny Little Victories, so don't adjust your podcast dial. Actually, can you guys believe I was saving that for this podcast? Don't adjust your podcast dial. I mean, like sometimes in my head it sounds good and then it comes out and it's not so great. I'm leaving it in here though, because maybe you'll laugh at the fact that I left it in. Anyway, I am your host, Jennifer Kite Powell, and today's episode is called Guy's Magical Mystery Tour with Guy Armitage. Oh, I'm so excited for this because it is a little bit of a full on, energetic, creative conversation with who I feel is one of the most creative people I've met. Also, he's technically creative, so he combines technology and art together. And he's also created a company called Zealous. And we're going to talk about that. But one of the things that I have to talk about right now on this podcast is the fact that we pre-recorded Guy's podcast a couple of weeks ago because he was busy jet setting here and there. No, actually, he was skiing with his family in Switzerland. He is Swiss. And he had put his kids to bed. So it was quite late his time. He's in London. And then we sat down to have this conversation. And through this whole entire conversation, he did not once mention the fact that he had a new book coming out. Yeah, a new book coming out. So I'm going to have to talk about the book right now and get you guys all excited. And then while you're listening to him talk, just think like, why did this person not mention his book? Anyway, the name of the book is called Everyone is Creative, 7 Easy Steps to Unlock Your Creativity by Guy Armitage. And you can pre-order it right now on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, pretty much all the online book resellers. And even you can add the .uk in that, so you can buy it around the world. And it is available on November 21st, which is the perfect time of year for that holiday gift-giving season that we've all come to love or not love, depending on where you fall on that. But the book takes a look at the idea of the rules of creativity, and Guy thinks that they're very, very simple, and he thinks you can unlock your creative potential, whatever that may be, in 7 steps, not even 10 steps, 7. And Guy believes that everyone is born creative, and he believes that our experiences directly impact our ability to stoke our imagination and let that creativity flow, which is one of the things I love. So you can kind of think of this book as like a manifesto, maybe a part how-to guide, with some playful prompts and exercises. And I feel like the book really just sort of arms you with this big, like, pen or paintbrush or, keyboard to be able to unlock your creative spark. Now, that being said, I just want to say that one of my most creative books on creativity out there is by Philippe Petit, who wrote the book called Creativity, The Perfect Crime. It's a fantastic book. He's a visual thinker, so the book has a lot of drawings about where his thoughts came from. But in 1974, this guy illegally walked between the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. He was also a street juggler and a visual artist and a builder and a writer. I mean, I guess you could say he was a rebel. And I guess you could also say that he had a lot of tiny little victories that led him to where he is today. But it is a very great book, an unconventional way to look at, the artistic endeavors that we have in our life, from generating and shaping ideas to practicing those ideas and problem solving those things. And I think creativity encompasses all of those things. So I love it that Guy has a new book out. I feel like he might be the new Philip Petit in a little bit of a modern way. So yeah, that's a big send up. Go to barnesandnoble.com, amazon.co.uk, and look for Everyone is Creative, 7 Easy Steps to Unlock Your Creativity with Guy Armitage, who is coming up next on Tiny. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Tiny Little Victories. I am Jennifer Kite Powell, your host, and I have Guy Armitage on the phone with me from London, England. Guy, are you there?
I am indeed. Hi, everyone.
Hello to you, and everyone saying hello back to you. And listen, everybody, I'm just going to tell you something really interesting before the music ends. Yay, there it is we are popping Guy Armitage's podcast cherry right now. Can we say that? We said it.
We did.
Okay.
And I'm a bit tense, but I'm excited at the same time.
I love all those little funny comments in there. Yeah, it's nothing to be nervous about, though, right? I think it's just, it is new, but I thought you had done a ton of podcasts for some reason. Why did I think you were like a podcast guru? Why did I think someone else had popped your podcast cherry?
I just like to talk, I guess.
I've seen that you do a lot of, well, actually, we're going to get back in the Wayback Machine. So, first of all, for everybody to know, this is Guy Armitage, and he is the founder and CEO. He owns the whole thing with a company called Zealous in London. And I like to think of Zealous as like creating a better, beautiful world together. I like to think of you guys as that kind of company, but really you're a platform that allows for open submissions for artists to create, like to submit submissions for different art competitions or do I have that wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. We started as a community of artists, and then we decided to find a way of being more useful. And it turns out that all the artists asked us for more opportunities. So we had to find a problem we could solve to bring opportunities to them. And so we started allowing awards and competitions to manage their submissions through us.
I love that because I feel like the arts community or the creative community is always sort of like abandoned in a way when it comes to like helping them get their art or submitted to these places so they can have recognition, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, artists, they'll be fine, right? And the fact is that like they need to be nurtured. They need to have platforms that support them, because it's hard to get recognized, isn't it? It's hard to find where you need to be to show your work, I think. And is there anything else out there like this? I don't feel like there is.
It changes all the time. It feels like I kind of straddle two worlds. The arts is something that's been there since the dawn of time, since we've managed to mark things. And then I straddle technology, which is moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but it feels like the young upstart. So technology-wise, it's moving all the time, and there are definitely services that artists can use. And I think just keeping track of it and understanding what's out there is probably quite hard. It's hard for me, and
you can do both sides of it, and it's hard for you. And I think you're right. I think it's just hard to keep up with tech alone as it is. And you and I are like very into tech. But I think an artist, even a writer for that matter, is maybe you're struggling to find all these places to go, because as a writer myself, I'm all the time like all over the place looking for submissions, looking for, open contests or places that are offering contests for short fiction or poetry. And it's like a hot mess in this world. I have not seen one platform to bind them all in the writing world. And, I think it's interesting because I've known you for a really long time, and you were just starting out with this platform back, but maybe I want to say 2009, 10.
Pretty close, 2011, yeah.
Woohoo! Look at that. I had to give myself some applause there. And, you were so, in London when I met, you were so focused on and so excited about this platform, which you are today. And I know it's changed a lot because of the technology, but what was it like for you, like making this decision to create something that nobody was doing? I'd imagine you got a lot of like, oh, dude, this is not going to happen.
Uphill struggle the whole way.
Well, you know what Ray Bradbury says, you don't build your wings on the way up, you build them on the way down. So
yep, I'm still building them. I'm still going down and building them. But
I'm with you on that one.
But you are right in terms of starting out. I think there was, in technology, people look for really big exits, and they make sure that they want something that's huge and that's going to have big worldwide impact. But when you look for funding within the creative industries, they say there's just no money in creativity. And that was the walls I kept on coming to in 2011. We kind of self-funded. And then we had to prove to the creative sector that we weren't just trying to be a tech problem that was coming their way. We were actually trying to solve a problem for them. And I think it took 5 years to buy into that space and just to say, hey, you can trust us.
Yeah.
So it's been,
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people I bought an education. And literally the last 10
Wow.
years, I've just been educating myself. And of course, we're making money now and we're kind of going forward. But I'm still learning a lot, and we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I was looking for my clapping sounds, but I didn't get them in time. But now I've queued them up in case you say something else awesome. But I think you brought up two key points here, and that is you had two audiences. You had to convince and get trust from the creative community. I totally get that because again, it's hard to be an artist. Like, why would you trust them? Why are you going to trust somebody else to make another problem for you? And now you got to learn this technology. And how do I know you're going to get me to where I need to go? And then you've got the issue of these. I'm so sick of VCs right now. I'm just going to say it out loud. You don't have to, but like they don't ever look at the bigger picture. They just want that dollar, like right from the beginning. So I imagine it's really hard for them to like support the arts or any type of, platform that's all like based on creativity. Creative people, I think, run the world, but yet nobody wants to give them any help, right? It's like, oh, there's no money in that. I think there's tons of money in that.
There is tons of money. I think the problem they face is it is so fragmented. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
and you look at the creative sector, and one of the things that really interested me at the beginning was the fact that we have so many different industries within the creative sector, from art, music, performance, but we're all facing the fundamental same problems. Being seen, being able to sell what we're doing, protecting our rights, which is becoming increasingly important in the age of AI. I mean, we all
Yes.
have the same problems, but we all seem to be working in silos. And that was one of the reasons Zealous started.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is the reason no one is doing it is because the challenge is huge and people
Yeah.
speak different languages and have different networks, but essentially they have the same problem. The other thing which I thought was really interesting is the arts organizations, the artists, and then the funders within the creative sector. So in the UK, we have funding, public funding, which is great because it allows the arts to take risks. They all speak fundamentally different languages and they all speak about each other, but they very rarely speak to each other.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and we tried, we did a couple of conferences early on where we tried to put panels together where we'd have one artist, one organization, and someone within funding together, and sparks flew. It was great because,
See? I
yeah,
mean, like, because but who else was going to create that environment for that to happen? Because you bring up another really great point, and that is nobody had really even, there's so many varying pieces. I like what you said about different languages, different networks, but they have the same problem, and that's the common denominator. So when you put the VCs or the money people in with these panels, you said sparks flew, but what was it about that? The realization that this is something that can benefit everybody, or that it has the ability to be profitable, or was it a combination of all those things?
so we didn't really have access to the VCs. I don't think the VCs would have taken an interest because that's not the kind of conference that they would have gone after. But we had the chair of the Arts Council, which does the public funding. So it was the more is sort of understood and established funding within the creative
Okay.
industries in the
Oh,
UK.
okay.
The VCs, you would usually take an interest in something highly scalable. So they would look for a technology solution. And then you have the alternative side of that, which is the producers who would look for something like, let's say, the next Harry Potter, where they can
Okay.
create a billion off that. But they all, again, speak different languages and often don't speak to each other.
Yeah, it's just that not speaking to each other is really interesting because I think we assume that people are talking, but one of the things I've learned by talking to all these people on the podcast and just my experience working with people from around the world, people don't. You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't talk to each other, and then, like you said, you get them in a room, and then these sparks fly. I like that about the UK having that funding because I guess it does allow them to take risks. And are there other have you worked with other countries that you were able to bring in that also have that same setup with the UK arts, or is it just that you're focusing on these conversations inside the UK?
I think it's easier in the UK because I have access to these people, but there
Mm.
are many European countries that have funds available for the creative industries. They're just structured in a different way. And one of the things we're seeing a lot of is money coming from the Middle East. So kind of building their own artists, biennales, and kind of developing their own talent, but also bringing in talent to become almost a destination. A little bit like, and you spent time in France, so if I hear you squeal when I say it, but the idea of the Louvre being in the Middle East, I think the French have a few things to say about that, but it's strategic.
It is, and it's smart. And I think you said in the beginning, arts has been here since we were able to get up and, dip our end of our stick in the fire and scribble on the wall, or, just take that rock and draw whatever that was on the wall. And it's so fascinating about the Middle East, because I get a lot of pitches for Forbes from people in this very same area, in arts and sustainable agriculture and ag tech, in all of these areas that, they're investing in that own ecosystem, and you're seeing more and more of that, which I love. And, people, nobody has a stronghold on what art is. I mean, as much as as I love France and live there, it's like, I think it's great that the art world is spreading out as far as it can go. If new talent and new creators are popping up because of this, I think that's a great thing. They probably have slightly more challenges than we have in many ways.
Different challenges.
Different challenges, yeah.
Yeah, I find it fascinating that art itself brings so many ideas within your own perception of what that means.
That's true. That's very true.
A lot of people will say, oh, art is the Mona Lisa, or art is that Van Gogh that you see on a poster when you go to the dentist's. But art covers so much more. It's the art of creating, writing poetry, as you very well know yourself. I mean, all of this expands. It's about sort of that capturing of human emotion into something tangible that you can share with others. It's an interface.
Yes, an interface. And I wanted to, speaking of interfaces, and maybe I'll take people back here, but please just jump in and say, Jennifer, that's completely wrong. But you did an event, or you were part of an event back in, maybe I want to say 2014, at Turbine Hall, right, inside Tate Modern, where Ah Huawei was there, the artist Ah Huawei, right?
So that's correct. He wasn't there, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it was one of his pieces of art, right? It was...
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I should have prepared for this a little better.
No,
it's all spontaneous.
No.
Well, do you remember what you did? Because you won.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, actually, you're the one who egged me to go into that, because I didn't go to hackathons.
It was a hackathon. Yes, it was a hackathon where people were locked up in Turbine Hall. And for everybody that doesn't know this, but you need to know this, is like Turbine Hall is the big open space at the Tate Modern in London. Fantastic. So many innovative things happening there. I think they had some robotic fish suspended from the ceiling last month. It's just a mind-boggling space filled with art. And they had put one of his, I think it was the moon. Yes, it was one of his pieces of work. It was the moon, I think, and people were locked up, and you guys had to hack using technology reinterpretation of this piece of art. Please tell me that's right.
Yeah, it's very close. I actually don't remember the moon being there, but I know he showed the moon there. But I think I was a little bit sleep deprived, because they did lock us in there for a little while, so I might have not seen the moon. But essentially, he donated a data set for a hackathon, and the data set was a list of names of students that had died in the Sichuan earthquake. And Ai Weiwei said that the reason why these students had died was because of corruption, and the fact that these schools had fallen down because the raw materials for the schools had been cheaped out on. So he used that list of names, and he shouted them out to remember them as an act of remembrance, but also rebellion.
I think that he's good at that. I think he does that very subtly. Yes, and it was 2014. I did find the article, and I just want to apologize, because it's a much heavier thing that you guys were doing politically, artistically, creatively, using technology in that space. And I think it was because he was also dedicated to digital art. Like, that was one of the things he was focusing on, and it cost $8.6 million. It was called The Space.
Yes.
The victims of the 2008 Sichuan earthquake.
That's correct, and it was back to that kind of public funding body. So the space was interesting because it was a partnership between the BBC and Arts Council, And both institutions are quite heavy and bureaucratic, and the space was kind of this almost experiment to try and make digital art more potent and support it better. And that was their launch, and they created a hackathon. It was really fun. I mean, I'm glad you told me to go there, because it was really fun. So, some of the projects were fun. Huh?
Well, I love that I remember you talking about it. I'm like, you must go. It was like 150 artists, and there was a moon there, because I'm now remembering that Ai Weiwei and Olafur Eliasson did a digital artwork called Moon that was loaned to the Tate for that event. So maybe it was just that piece of art was in there when you guys were doing that. It's funny, you were tired and you don't remember, but
I should have had some sleep.
You should have had some sleep. But like, you actually came up with the best representation. Like, you won. And
yeah.
But what was that exactly? Like, what was it that do you remember what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't win solely. I found other people within the space to work with. And at the very beginning of the hackathon, what they did was people could stand up and share ideas or thoughts or inputs to try and get the ball rolling. And this guy, Gavin, sort of stood up and he said, "Oh, I have this server that's been hacked. I don't know what to do with it, but maybe that will get some ideas rolling." And we got together in a conversation, and 2 other people joined us. And essentially we came up with the concept of a honeypot server, which was unsecured, which got a lot of attention, that we just left lying there on the web. And each time someone tried to hack it, depending on the severity of the hack, we would play a different sound. So it started playing music, and we wanted to go a step further. So that what was really interesting is it didn't really take long for it to be. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh,
Are you
sorry.
still here?
Yeah, for some reason my computer went off for a second. Anyway, I'm still here.
Hey, so we're being hacked. You're being hacked.
So yeah, it was playing music, but I think within a couple of hours that server was found, even though it wasn't something people knew about.
Really?
And then what we thought was really interesting was the data set that Ai Weiwei gave us. Every time we got hacked from China, we would reclaim one of those names and show it on the screen as a way of saying, this is because people are hacking from within China. It's an act of revolution against the Great Chinese Firewall, and we are reclaiming a name because of that. And that was the project in a nutshell.
Yes, and you know what? I have to just say, while you were talking, I went and looked it up again for everybody out there, and I'm just gonna pretend like this is like a little like special report. So basically, that project that you did where you were hacking this, and you were getting hacked. The project was called Echo, $ECHO, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And the site project produced the name of one of the 1,000 of victims from the 2008/1 earthquake every time a Chinese hacker hacked your site. And your site that you guys created with this person had received 70,000 hacks in just 20 hours.
Yeah, it was insane.
And one of the things that Guy Armitage said, the person that you're listening to today, was what's fascinating is it sounded like a heartbeat. We were constantly being hacked. That's amazing.
And what was really interesting is because we were coding whilst we were listening to that. I mean, we were actively doing it as we were being hacked. We were listening to the sounds, and there was this synchronicity, as you said, the heartbeats. There was this definite synchronous sound, which must have been crawlers or spiders looking for a way in.
Visual. Yeah, it's so amazing.
And then occasionally you'd have something completely asynchronous, something that just stuck out like a sore thumb. That would be a completely different sound. And you'd think, a human's got involved now, or that's interesting. The spider might have told someone, hey, this is unsecure, and now a human's jumping in and trying to hack this server. And halfway through the event, we got an angry phone call from the hosts of the server going, "What are you doing?" I think there were a couple of expletives, But what are you doing? You're being actively hacked. You've taken down the firewall. This is dangerous. We could be doing something that's illegal. Why are you doing it? So we explained it was a piece of art, and they gave us a few more hours. But I don't think we could have gone for much longer.
It's a piece of art, so we're just going to give you a few more hours. And one of the things you said in this article also was you said the aim of the project was to show another side of hacking. And normally hacking is painted as a negative act, like against online security. But, you had said hacking can be viewed as a form of challenging a state's suppression of information. And you actually said we wanted to challenge people. We wanted to challenge people why they're hacking. And I think people probably don't think that is also an example of, against government repression. And the idea that you could hear the difference by what you created in like an artificial intelligence, like a spider, like the sound of that versus a human coming online once it had been notified. It's so matrixy, like if you think about it. And I actually see here that your team, we want to do a shout out to your team, included the generative artist Ron Harema, the developer Marco Samuli-Creeves, and Gavin Clark, who was head of Flash at Special Moves. And you guys only had 24 hours and none of you knew each other before. And you created the winning piece of art and made a political statement about hacking. I mean, come on. That's remarkable. And
can I add something to this? A tiny thing. Oh,
yeah.
Ooh, yay, applause. That wasn't what I was expecting.
Good job. Okay. Add one big thing if you'd like.
It's a very small thing, but it was an absolute pleasure. We had little rolly chairs that you had with the tables, and the Tate Modern has this sort of massive ramp into this massive space, and we managed to bring the rolly chairs up the ramp and roll the whole way down. It was damn fun. So there's two big memories of that day.
I love that. It's like sledding down a cement hill in the Tate Modern.
Yeah, sleep deprived. I didn't see a moon, but I slid down it.
That's so funny because the moon probably was there like in the room somewhere, but I would imagine you had no sleep. I love those memories, and I don't know that like if anybody's like, oh yeah, the Tate Modern, that'd be so cool. They wouldn't let you ever do that now. Like you couldn't take a rolly chair and roll it down the ramp in the middle of Tate Modern in Turbine Hall.
I think they've learned.
They've learned like these three hackers, no way are we letting them come back in. I do think it's interesting that you justified it to this person who was swearing, like it's a piece of art. So they gave you a few more hours. And you guys won something like 4,000 pounds, I think, for that sleep deprived weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was money to try and make another project. So we actually stayed in touch, and the team got together to do another proposal. It was quite hard because, as you said, we didn't know each other. We kind of had 24 hours together, and then we were told to think really big and come up with another project, and we did. We came up with another proposal, which never saw the light of day. I think we thought a little bit too big. But it was really interesting to spend time with these four people and go through a project proposal. And after that, I think we kind of lost touch, but it'd be great to kind of get them back together.
Yeah, you guys should do a reunion. That was in 2014, so 2024 would be 10 years since you guys hacked for art.
That's true. Yeah, that'd be great.
And actually, what could be also interesting, I'm all full of ideas, is it has been 10 years, but my God, how much the political, governmental restrictions on art and media have escalated in 10 years later, right? First of all, we haven't even touched the fact AI. I mean, what would a hackathon, hey, here's one. What would an art hackathon look like today, 10 years later? Like what would be the technology people would be maybe bringing to this 20? I think this hackathon needs to happen again.
So can I say something? It'd probably look very similar. It sounds strange for me to say that. You'd be able to do a lot more in a lot less time. But one of the projects that I thought was incredible, and I actually thought deserved to win, was I don't remember who the artist was, but basically he took two model heads, like fashion models from inside a shop, and he projected Obama and he projected Putin on the two of them, And then he got them to speak each other's speeches. So he translated Putin's speech from English, from Russian to English, and one of Obama's speech. And then he got them to speak each other's speeches. So there was already an element of AI. It's always been present. There's always been an interest in it. I mean, I studied it in 2004, and I couldn't get a job because people thought I was insane. And when I told my people in the sort of French side of Switzerland where I'm from, and I'd say AI, they'd go "aye," as in ouch.
Aye, yes, like a good French person would. Aye, hurts.
So we've come a long way. We have come a long way in how everyone understands AI is going to have an impact on them. But actually, AI has been here since the 60s.
I love that you. Yeah, I love that you said that, because you're right. 10 years ago, it was still a thing, but you noticed that people thought. Jamila Knowles, who was also on this show, said the very same thing. Like, she had been studying AI a long time ago, and everyone was like, "What? You're just wackadoodle."
Exactly. We were the insane ones.
Yeah, but you guys were ahead of the pack, and I think you're right. I see that it was a second place win, though. The Barack Obama Vladimir Putin 3D projection using AI was trying to prove that all politicians sound alike. And
it was really good.
And I know we're going to go back to AI, but I just thought, since we're on this subject, the other ones that were like runners up were a child's windmill that moved according to the data it received, and a robotic lobster that read depressing tweets out loud.
I love that lobster. I wanted to take it home at the end of the night. You could pet it and it would read depressing tweets. I don't quite. I don't know what the use case for this is, but everyone needs a depressed lobster in their lives.
I think so. And actually, now looking at the state of Twitter, I kind of feel like it would maybe be good now to bring a lobster out to have it read depressing tweets. It'd be reading like all of the internet, basically.
I don't think it would have enough lips to read that many tweets.
No, it wouldn't. It would need like a whole boat of lobsters to be able to do that.
Also, it would have to pay for the API, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would have to pay to get also the blue Twitter checkmark too, the verified checkmark. Yeah, so it probably wouldn't do it. Now, you mentioned about 20 minutes ago, you were talking about some of the issues around, and we just started to talk about AI, but now we've got a lot with intellectual property and property rights, and now the AI is here. That's even more challenging. So what are you seeing, or what are you worried about when it comes to AI and art? Because I know it's just like the velocity of this thing is just scary at this point, but art is a whole different part of what we're seeing with AI, because to me there's a lot of intellectual property there, a lot of protection of pieces of art, and I'm just wondering, like, people are creating art with AI, but is it
there is art? So much. Yeah, there is so much to unpack there. I mean,
yeah,
I could fill 6 hours. I think there is precedence, which is what's interesting. Gutenberg, the inventor of the printing press, is what led to copyright and what led to people protecting their printed works, because they were so worried that what they were writing by hand was going to be plagiarized, and then they would lose control over their works.
Yeah, so true.
We're facing a Gutenberg moment, really, which is we need to find a way of having the benefits of AI, because obviously AI is a powerful tool to create and allows us to do things faster and get inspiration from things. But we need to make sure we protect the artists whose data is just being shoveled into these learning algorithms. And we need to reinvent intellectual property law to do that. I mean, why are we allowing learning models to copy all books and copy everything without paying the artist royalties? Sorry. I don't understand that. So there needs to be a restructuring to try and protect the artists, because otherwise what will happen is the only thing that will create is the AI, and then we'll just be in this weird sort of gray area where we have this flood of AI junk that's just being created without humanity sort of increasing its value and making it more interesting and more up to date. I mean, if you ask AI about the future now, it's going to paint a picture of what we think the future looks like, what humanity thinks the future looks like. But if you had AI in the 60s, it would have given you black and white flying cars and robots and all sorts.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what we thought the future was.
Yeah, but it can't come up with a different concept at this point. So it's humanity that's feeding this beast, but the beast is just regurgitating what we are feeding it. So
Yes.
if we feed it rubbish, and if it starts just getting its own data fed back to it, it's just going to fade to like the lowest common denominator. And you see that. I mean,
yeah, you already do see it. Yes. And that's what's disturbing. I think, like, there's just a couple of things that you said here. You know, why are we doing this? Why are we letting it sort of gobble up all of these data sets? And I think you probably read this, but there was a story recently about Samsung that it inadvertently leaked all this sensitive company information via ChatGPT in 3 separate instances. And now all of that in their use of ChatGPT is now becoming like absorbed into that data set. So all of their code is now inside here as a data set for anybody to pull on. I mean,
yes. Well, you know what they say, right? If you pay for something, if you don't pay for something, you're the product. So
yeah,
we are the product. And they're going to sell it back to us.
Yeah, and your other point, which is, I love all these things you've said, and we need to reinvent IP, and that's so true, is that this idea of humanity feeding this beast is what's so scary to me, because we're scary right now, and I don't think we've even stopped to think about the why. Like, I think this like it's like piranhas feeding on something, and I do get a little concerned. And you mentioned these things about like if it was the 60s, it would see a different picture, and now it's taking what we're feeding and presenting this other picture. But I get concerned because AI to me just seems like a pleaser. It just wants to give you, it always wants to give you an answer. It will never say I don't know, right? It doesn't want to say I don't know. It goes and sources through all that to come back and give you an answer. And one of the best examples I think I can give right now about that is a young college student that I met who said he was studying ChatGPT and he was using it to help him write code. And I said, "Oh, are you sure it's going to write the right code?" And he goes, "Yes, because I know what right code looks like." So he was saying that he has it save himself time, and he goes back and then he goes back and reviews it. And he feels confident that him going back and reviewing it, because he knows code, he can just take one glance and he can see that it's fine. But the things we're talking about are very nuanced.
Yes. Yeah, and
Art,
with codes,
writing, sources, stories.
Yeah, and how easy it is to manipulate the human brain too. We're made to believe certain things. I think actually one of the scariest things about ChatGPT is the fact that you don't really have a link to the source. So you're getting this answer, and it's kind of coming to you as the answer, and you're like, okay, and that's great. But I go right now, the only thing that allows me to work out whether information is legitimate or not is to go to a specific website and get that verification. And I might go to a specific news website, and I might and that's what allows me to trust it. And sometimes, even at this point, sometimes I don't trust the news, but that's a different matter altogether.
Well, I don't either. I actually don't either so much anymore, because I don't know. Are they using ChatGPT? How do I know someone's checked that? I'm not even sure anymore what I read, to be honest.
It's hard. So that kind of gold standard of knowing, well, who is speaking to me? I know you. I trust you. I know you've got it. But when ChatGPT gives you an answer, it could come from literally anywhere. So when you are talking about code, you're right. It's a very structural thing. It's grammatical. If you're a good coder, you can see what's right, what's wrong, and it's fantastic in saving you time. But ultimately, if it's not about that, if it's just asking for information, then it's opening a door to the unknown, and the unknown
really
it could be a utopia or it could be a dystopia. It can be either.
It's like an upside down world. It opens up this sort of surreal portal. I think there was some research or an article also, I'm not sure if that's real, but it was saying that it didn't want to give a wrong answer. So it would just go pull things together that sounded good. Like they even had sources, reference sources. And when the reporter went back and checked the reference sources, they never even existed. He actually knew some of the authors, and they never even wrote those books.
Yeah, I think it's not. What I think is fascinating is it's not that it doesn't want to give a wrong answer. It doesn't have a sense of ethics. So we tend to talk about AI like a person, but It's
Oh,
a
that's
bit
a
of
good way
code.
point.
So,
Yeah.
so actually, what ChatGPT is doing is it's doing what we told it to do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of this subservient thing that we've trained, and we don't quite know where things are coming from, and that's what makes the AI so interesting. The fact that you have this black box and you feed it things and it comes back with interesting results.
Why
But
are we so fascinated with that as humans, though? Why do we? Why? I mean, you connected some of this, intellectual property and copyright to the Gutenberg moment, which I love. But what is it about human nature that we're so curious that we're not even looking at what the consequences of this 10 years down the road? Oh, I don't think people are.
the bridge between creation and destruction is only an inch apart.
Oof.
So I think what people are doing is they probably have the right thoughts in their minds. They want to cure cancer. They want to put people on the moon. They want to solve global warming. They have all these good use cases. They also perhaps want to protect ourselves. So if you are talking about political conflicts, AI is going to become the next weapon of mass destruction in some way. You need to be the first person there. It's like quantum computers, all these sort of emerging technologies. Because we don't know enough about them, they become a threat. So we need to be first.
Yeah.
And that's why people invest a lot of time and effort. But it doesn't take much to slip up, and
Yeah.
that kind of bridge, you have that kind of element of a sort of souped up capitalism, which is
Yes.
all about, hey, I don't have a problem with capitalism, by the way. I think it works. But when you go to the extremes, when you go to like, well, we need 60 time return on our investment, and these are the 10 things that we need, and someone is holding the purse strings for someone else who might have the right intentions. If the purse strings are taken away, then all these efforts are taken away. So it can be corrupted by that, and it can be reshaped and become something different. So
Yeah.
and there's this cloud. I guess it's this cloud of unknown. We don't know if everything is just this if everything is changing massively, or if it's changing a little bit. And even the experts don't know. They kind of like, well, we could be a step away from a god machine, or we might just be able to fix your grammar.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it
those are
seems
like such polar opposite things, right? And I love that you're putting that into perspective, because I find that oftentimes the media, or maybe the early adopters, will just gobble this technology up, and then it's like they're just throwing it out. Let's see how it works here. Let's see how it works here. Let's see how it works here. And then in the meantime, you've got these, like you said, vastly different use cases. It could be like fix your grammar, or review your code, versus like reformulate medicine that makes it more effective. And those are to me, one feels like folly, and the other feels like practical uses. And I think we tend to go overboard as humans, and everyone was using the lens, or not lens, but an AI to like replicate themselves. Like, what would AI turn them into? Everybody looked like a fairy, or like like a princess warrior from some video game. Everybody looked the same.
Yeah,
which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all new technologies. Right? I remember looking at Instagram filters for the first time. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. And then within 6 months, you're like, oh, everyone looks the same. Okay, we need something else.
We are so obsessed with ourselves, aren't we? We are really obsessed. Okay, welcome back to Tiny Little Victories. And I feel like we were hacked after all this talking of hacking. And I think where we left off was you had asked your 3-year-old son what he would want to talk about, and I lost you then.
Yeah. So we were talking about ego. I think that kind of brought us onto my family, and we were talking in the bath, and my children and my wife were there, and my 3-year-old was asked what he would speak about in a podcast, and he said his birthday, and my 5-year-old said she'd talk about her family. Aww. And then my wife said, oh, well, your father's going to talk about himself. So it made me feel really bad.
What was their reaction to that?
I don't think they were surprised.
That's so funny.
It's really depressing to think at the age of 3 they already realized that I just like talking about myself. But at least they're ready for what the world has to offer. We are all
Exactly. I think
obsessed with ourselves and
exactly.
Instagram
We're
and
all obsessed with ourselves. You're giving them a first-hand account of that. But I do like it that your son wants to talk about his birthday.
he hasn't had many, so I think they
Yes.
mean something to him.
Yeah, see, exactly. And that's a perfect example of perspective, right? Like he's had maybe two birthdays, he's going to have a three birthday because that's a big thing, a birthday for a child. Like you get excited about it and it's something you look forward to and you are literally the center of attention. It's all about
Yeah,
you.
and did you realize that time just speeds up as you get older? So as
Oh,
your kids,
yes.
every day means a lot more to you because it's a smaller fragment of your life. But as you get
Yeah.
older, your day gets a smaller fragment of your life. And eventually, when you're 80, it was an 80th of what it meant when you were one.
Oh my God, that's
So
like a really relatable math problem. That's so
it is,
true.
yes, an easy math problem.
An easy math problem. Well, I mean, I know you and I could talk for 6 hours straight, but I did want to ask you before this technical glitch and maybe we were hacked. Well, I know we weren't, but it's fun to think we were. What do you think the biggest problem is facing artists today when it comes to AI? Are they concerned about it, or is there going to be a remedy for it, or what are you feeling? What's your feeling on that?
So you've used two really broad terms. You've used
Uh-oh.
AI and you've used artist, which means I'm going to have to give you a really broad answer.
Oh, you can narrow it down. What would be a better way to ask that question?
No, I think that's a really good. I think it is a very good question.
Or I
I
could toss
think,
an intellectual property in there too, and you could just have like a juggle.
well, intellectual property is definitely something that needs to be looked at, but I think that is a little bit outside of the artist's hands. Unfortunately, I think we can obviously talk about it and they can push towards it, but ultimately, I think the biggest problem for artists is no one really understands what all of this means. Even if we work within the sector, people get excited by it, people get terrified by it. No one's really explained to them, hey, AI means so many different things, and some things can be good and some things can be bad, and we need to find a way of separating the good from the bad. We also have to understand whether or not it's going to displace them from what they're doing. I think people are worried about their livelihoods, and I think some people should be worried. I think
Hmm.
there's going to be some impact, but it means we need to be agile. And I think what has held true for millennia is artists and creators have been agile. And even the last 20 years, their tool sets have changed so much. The way that they deliver their craft, the way that they create has gone from, I mean, if you're a photographer, you've gone from having to create film and develop it and having that kind of scarcity of medium to, hey, everyone's got a phone in their pockets. What makes me a photographer? How do I compete with that? All of these big changes have happened. There's some more changes coming. So I think just the unknown is quite scary, and also where
Yeah.
to get information that serves them,
Yeah.
um, because there is so much information about it. I mean, we are flooded with it. You open
Yeah.
anything, and everyone's an AI expert, and you think, where were you 20 years ago? And
Yeah.
what's happened?
Yeah.
Um,
It's going back to your experience when you first started, or even Jamila's experience. It's like now everybody's an expert. Now it's totally okay to talk about it. Everyone's out of the closet on AI, right? Now everybody's talking about it.
but everyone was an expert on metaverse and crypto, and I mean
Oh,
we've
yeah.
seen how these houses of cards have come down, and everyone's kind of hidden it under the carpet and walked forward
Hmm.
and gone somewhere else. So I don't know if there'll be a bit of AI under the carpet in a year's time. I think we're desperate to find the next big thing,
Yeah. I think
and
we are too. I agree with that.
Chat Chat GPT kind of showed its face, and it is the wow factor. It's the moment where everyone sits in the cinema and sees a black and white train racing towards them, and they panic because they've never seen a train coming out of the screen
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's,
Technology has marveled us for
yes.
centuries now.
And I always love when you talk to people who grew up on black and white TV and they talk about how it felt to see things in color. Like they said it was very like unsettling.
Yeah, yeah, and the Lumiere brothers, the first film, people screamed and ran out of the
Yeah,
cinema.
exactly.
I
It
I,
was
I
very
mean,
scary.
but we've had that over and over again. I mean, there's for example, when they were testing nuclear bombs. Obviously, this is a very destructive force, but it's
Mhm.
it's been constructive in how it's allowed us to create energy, sort of more renewable. Well, it's not renewable energy, but it's less than
Yeah.
coal.
Yeah.
But when they were detonating the first bomb, a question they were asking themselves is this bomb going to ignite the atmosphere and going to burn up the entire Earth? That was a question they were asking, and the physicists gave them an answer, and we giggle about it now, but at that point it was a question that was important to ask.
Yeah.
Now it's a silly question. I think we need to have these silly questions about AI that we ask, and that define what that really is. They didn't know what nuclear fusion could do, or fusion, right? Um, we don't really know what AI can do. We have to have
Yeah.
this moment where we can ask these silly questions
I
and make
agree.
sure that we create these frameworks to try and protect from the real threats that are available to it.
I
I mean,
agree, and I think that human curiosity in one direction and wanting to see what you look like in AI, or walking through a virtual reality, augmented reality version of a painting, is still just as important. We need to know. And there was someone else on the podcast that I spoke to, Mark DeCock. He actually is running right now, and he actually thinks that AI is going to evolve to be much more personal than it is now. It's going to be sort of everybody will have their own AI engine. You'll be feeding it with your own data to get back what you need. And I had never heard that before, and I
yeah, it's
thought that was
scary though.
yeah, it's
It's, it's,
scary, but
so the idea of a really personal AI is interesting because you can, but then you're opening the door to things like, I have all of my data. I've created an AI that's personal to me. I die, and then my wife would like to create a version of me in AI and ask me questions post mortem.
yeah.
And basically,
Is that a Black
you're
Mirror
saying
episode? Feels like a Black
it,
Mirror
it,
episode. Yeah.
yeah, we're not that far away from this
No, we're
stuff.
not. We're not that far. No.
There's two examples which I find fascinating. One is much older than the other. Do you remember the Sony dog, the Aibo? Like
Yes,
this,
Ivo. Yes, I love
and it was
robotics. I remember this dog.
ah, it was fantastic. And then they
Yeah.
discontinued it. And when they discontinued it, there was this massive like uproar because these people had fallen in love with their robot dogs and they wanted to keep it alive. And
Hmm.
there's this crazy black market for robot parts because they
Really?
were and people were going into depression because they were losing their dogs and they couldn't do anything about it. And that's happened recently where people had created this kind of personal assistant. I
Hmm.
mean, pornography is usually the first thing that takes
Yeah.
over new technologies. So I imagine there's an element of that and kind of a partner that you can speak to. But they did an update, and someone committed suicide because after the update,
Oh, I read about that. It was so sad.
yeah, but when you're starting to create these emotions with a machine, and when you hyper personalize it, you have a responsibility
Yeah.
towards these people to keep that entity alive and going. And it kind of there's a parallel also with self-driving. So self-driving is a very physical thing. You can see it. With AI, it's kind of abstract, but with self-driving, I'm sure we can do sort of have self-driving cars. But then what happened is legally they realized that if a self-driving car had an accident, even if it was a really small percentage of it happening and it killed someone, the person who built the self-driving car would be liable for it,
Yeah.
not the person driving it. And I think that's what sort of put the brakes on the whole thing, because suddenly these manufacturers didn't want, even though the percentage of an accident was low, it's
Yeah.
still a huge amount of people, and
Yeah. And
it
that's a
put
really,
the
really
onus on
good.
them.
That's an excellent point, and that you bring up about assigning emotions to these things and like bonding these things together. And I think if you look at the car story, this car example, like self-driving cars, I do think that companies tend to be very bottom line oriented. They're capitalistic by nature and they don't want that responsibility. But if it was a way to shift that to the person, I'm sure they would be fine with it, right? Like, because I feel like there's a clash coming between a them and a us. Like, I feel like us people, humans, probably need to ask these silly questions and come back with, well, do we really want this to go in this direction, versus big tech companies deciding what direction we need to go in. And that's where I get a little nervous about this elitist like tech company Oh my God, I don't know what I sound like when I said that, but I do feel like a lot of times they're making these decisions for us because they're testing things, right? They're testing Meta. They're testing, putting Mark Zuckerberg in his crazy face and his crazy t-shirt out in the metaverse, and you can have this new connection with people. They're just testing things to see if they work. Where's going to be the soft spot that they can go in with us, with all the data that they already have on all of us, all of our actions, our likes, our behavior, that hasn't even, I think that we've just started to scratch the surface of what's going to happen with all of that collected pooled data. That's why I think ChatGPT, AI is, like you said, it's software. It's not a person. It's just gathering all of this information, and it's going to create, right now it's just a lumpy piece of clay, that hasn't been sculpted yet to bring it back to art. But what
Yeah.
what will that, be in the end? Will it propel us forward? Will it sort of erode and corrupt and sort of disintegrate, elements of society that keep things going? I don't know. There's a lot of silly questions that need to be asked, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
sometimes I lay awake thinking about it. I'm like, oh no, we're not there yet. But then you see another news story and you're like, oh no, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
one
it's
step closer. But
yeah, one step
I mean,
closer.
my worry is we've been creating problems with technology for the last 10, 15 years, and we haven't yet tied up these loose ends. I mean, the impact of social media on society, the fact that we've managed to coerce governments, just like manipulating people to vote in a particular direction, or all of this is, they are
That's
already
been just so harmful that we have. But I don't, yeah, I feel like created a big problem, like you said. It's been creating big problems with technology. But I think the pace that which we're running in, we have not stopped to think about what you just said, the impact of social media on skewing elections, on people's perspective of voting one way or the other. And I honestly just feel like a lot of people don't care. That's part of the apathy of human nature versus, the people that really do want to ask the silly questions and come to resolution. The guff is just getting bigger. It's getting bigger
I,
and bigger. We're just reacting
yeah,
more without solving
yeah.
any problems.
I think the problem is, I don't think it's apathy. I think everything is so big now.
Mm.
I mean, we put a lot of trust in our brains and the ability to digest that much information, but we are working in an exponential world. So
Yeah, that's true.
the ability for us to digest the information, and be able to be useful, and it's exhausting. If you
Yeah,
Some people just not bother anymore because they realize that it's kind of, you have control over a certain amount of things in your life, and you need these things to work. And if you can't control things outside your domain, sometimes it's better to focus within your domain and
yeah,
have control over that. And I don't blame people for that at all.
yeah,
I think there's a need for that. And you don't want to be worrying about everything all the time. I mean, when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, everyone was worried about nuclear war everywhere. But people got on with their lives. They needed to put food on the table and get their kids to school. And
yeah,
there's these two weird worlds, isn't there? There's the
yeah,
kind of,
totally. And
and
I do think that a lot of, what happened with COVID. I mean, I think a lot about what came out of COVID, the bubbles that it created. And maybe there is a little more concern and focus into what you said, just going on and living your life in a healthy, happy way, getting kids to school, being around people you love, like just doing meaningful things for you that make you be your authentic self. That's a little bit sappy, but I think that maybe part of that disaster helped people kind of reel back a little and think about what it is that they're doing and how to live in that bubble. I call it the bubble. And maybe also it's one of the reasons it's accelerated even faster coming out with. I mean, it was very quiet there for a while, and now I feel like things are very noisy again. And
yeah, I
everybody
also
likes to latch on to something,
absolutely. I think the bubble analogy is really interesting because, if we'd been born 50 years ago, we wouldn't have had access to all of this. So the bubble is a relatively new thing. It's just, it's not so much living in a bubble. It's functioning in a world where information is coming at you from
Mm,
every angle. And maybe that is just, we call it a bubble, but actually as humans, this is what we need to do to be able to function within an environment that's working so quickly. And
Yeah.
yes, some humans will worry beyond that, and some people will focus on these problems. But if you're doing a specific role, if you're making pots, for example,
Yeah.
just being able to make the best pot possible, and make something incredible with your hands, and
Yeah.
feel that satisfaction, and then being able to sell these pots to be able to sort of fulfill your lifestyle. These are the kind of primary focuses. And then how AI is going to dislodge that from you is probably a secondary one.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think we do have information coming in at every angle. I think I have to work really hard to keep that incoming at bay, and I have like created a lot of protection mechanisms for myself to only spend this much time online, to only have this much phone time, to only never turn the, I really had to put these in place because one day I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I just feel in like heaped, like my life was encroached upon by all of these things. And when I began to push back and set these boundaries, some people were, well, how am I going to reach you? I'm like, you don't need to reach me. I don't need to get an emoji from you today. And although I appreciate the sentiment, I also know that I feel better and more at ease having quiet time away from that incoming information where it's basically shut down at a certain time. I keep a running list, my app does. My app does. And also I do in a notebook. But says, okay, you know what? I'm done. I've gone over my limit for the week and it's already Wednesday. So I'll be catching up on all my New Yorker reading or in the garden or, tending to my bees or, petting my dog. And that actually feels like better choices for me than checking an account, something online. I didn't
And
think
that's
it would ever,
because
but it really does.
your whole human evolution, everything that makes us who we are today, the millennia, that is what mattered to us. It
Yeah.
was being able to forage, find food,
Yes, yes.
procreate, all of this is kind of built into who we are. We can't
Yeah.
remove that from our biology. That's what makes us happy. And the
Yeah.
technology element has only really showed its
Yeah.
face in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, I still feel young. I'm probably old now, but well, I mean, I had email when I was, what, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Social media wasn't something new. Social media
You
was
had
pretty
email. I didn't
excited.
have email until I was a grown ass woman.
So a few years after me then.
So
Just
way, way far after you. Yeah. I mean, like I didn't have, yeah. And I think it was quieter then. I do feel like my mind was quieter. Um, But I love the way it connects people. Here we are connected. We lived together you and I were in the same city for a while. Now we're not, but we're still connected. So I appreciate that. I love that because I wouldn't have been able to live the life I led living in Europe and in France or traveling the way I did over there if I didn't have technology. So I think there's good and bad sides of everything, but I do feel that the noise level is quite high, and this was the only way I could turn the noise level down, and I love it. It feels great. Like it feels great just to stop and walk away. Some days I don't even know where I put my phone, and I find people like, well, how do you what? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I left it in the garden. I think I'm not sure, and
that sounds like heaven.
yeah, it is heaven. I did actually leave it in the garden a couple times and found it like 2 days later. I'm like, oh, there you are. Hello. Hello, little
If you
phone.
do that in the UK, your phone's not going to work for very long, or someone
Yeah.
will nick it.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. That's true. Well, you know what? I love this conversation and I love your brain. I love how you think. And you're like full of beautiful one-liners today that are just pouring out of you. I've been taking notes at the same time. And I know it's very, very late over there. You've got all the kids in the bed, and your wife's probably standing there like, "Come on already." No, that doesn't sound like her at all. Actually, knowing her,
No, she's super excited. I'm out of her feet. Actually, she
yeah,
wants me
that's
to
what
do
I
more
was gonna
podcasts.
think. That's what I was gonna think. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, as a friend, as a professional, as a human that I admire. And I just want to thank you for spending the time to come on Tiny Little Victories. So thank you very much.
And I have to return those thanks for having me. It was really nice to speak. And I think what we should do is we should get everyone on your podcast together and just have a feast and just have a conversation.
How great would that be? Well, that's the end of this episode of Tiny Little Victories. I hope you enjoyed Guy's Magical Mystery Tour. I have put all the details in the show notes for where you can buy his new book. Remember, November 21st is coming out, so you can pre order it now. And all the places you can follow him on social media, should you choose to do so. Um,
next week's guest, I have been talking about for a while, but he's finally here. So his episode's finally coming out. And this is with Chris Brown. He currently works at NVIDIA, one of my favorite companies. And he is the sum of many experiences, but he's always at the heart of innovation. He likes to be right there at the heart of innovation. He has a lot of opinions about innovation. And next week, he's going to talk about living in Kiev during COVID-19 and why crypto is the biggest grift ever. And this is a really great conversation because he comes back to some points that are sort of bubbling up again right now around this sort of elite group of tech leaders that are sort of pushing agendas on us. And he is going to get into that. Chris firmly believes that startups are help drive the world. And he also believes that foundational technology matters in everything that we do. So I'm so excited to share this podcast with you and to let you meet Chris over the podcast. So next week, come back to a new episode of Tiny Little Victories, and we'll see you then.